Yeah, so here we are. Here we are, Dr. Monikah. Come join me here.
Hello, everybody. You did the tribal makeup. Yesterday, I was carnival as one of the Anakaona dancers. So I'm still wearing yesterday's makeup because look at how beautiful it is. I don't want to take it off.
Oh my God, don't take it off. Now it isn't permanent, is it?
It's not permanent. And I'll take the pictures because those pictures are not for public consumption, honey. But yes, I was in full Anakaona getup. It was beautiful.
Awesome. Now, no makeup, no costume will ever take away from you the unique gift that you are to the world, the gift of bringing conversations to the forefront that many of us don't take the time to contemplate. And today's conversation is really critical. It's about failure. And as I was looking through that, Monikah, I thought to myself, well, gosh, in the context that you may be considering it, is there ever such a thing as failure? But that may be a sermon for another Sunday, right? So
Well,
the
yeah.
yeah, so the sacred side of failure. What are you being prepared for? What's on your mind? What do you want to say and create with us?
I am one of the most capitalistic anti-capitalists that you will ever meet. And in the same way, I am also one of the most irreverent spiritual people that you will probably ever meet. And so for me, it's common fodder to reframe things that the language that we use in the mainstream as a lesson and as something that actually empowers you, right? And so the first thing that came up for me in terms of the sacred side of failure is that it can serve as a sacred disruption because failure sometimes interrupts momentum, not to punish necessarily, but to redirect energy towards alignment. And sometimes what you consider failure is really just a pivot that's divinely orchestrated. It may be a collapse of an identity, maybe a collapse of an offer or a relationship. And if you can see it,
Oh,
sorry, it started
no
acting.
worries.
See, the phone is like, now you're speaking my language. If you can see that collapse of a identity or of an offer or a relationship as an initiation, the end of one archetype, so that another archetype can emerge. And every failure is data about what cannot carry the next level of you, right? And so if you see, I often use our own human cycle as an example. If you see the fact that you outgrew 3-year-old clothing when you ran out of space in 3-year-old clothing, oh my gosh, would you wear clothes today? You know what I mean? Like it can't contain you. You had to grow to another thing. So leaving it behind doesn't necessarily mean failure. It could just mean that it's a sacred disruption for your next level.
Yeah, and that reframing is brilliant, but there was no irreverence there. I want you to know that.
Not yet.
Now, if I hear you correctly, it's like maybe as we were pointing to it earlier, there is no such thing as failure. There are the actions I take, the things I say, what I do, what I don't do, and then results happen in life. Uh, for people like me who are just dead set on controlling the results of my actions, controlling the results of my speaking in a relationship. How do you take that reframing where failure is a redirection? Failure is a something that says to you, "Hey, whatever's happening now cannot contain your future self." How do you
Yeah.
reframe that for those of us who are hell bent on controlling what happens when it happens and how?
This was different, Pharrell, because the part of you that wants control isn't the part that has it. I'm going to say it again. The part of you that wants control isn't the part that has it. that has control. The ego sees failure as the end, but your higher self sees it as feedback. It's a feedback loop, not a finality indictment, right? So when something breaks, when something doesn't give you the results that you want, then for you to be able to ask what system, what assumption, what attachment was unsustainable here. The part of you that wants control doesn't have it means that the part of you that does have control isn't heartbroken when something doesn't result the way that it did. It just sees it as feedback. It's like, oh, I'm authoring this, and something was senior to my commitment to this result. What was that? What system was I attached to? What assumption was I making? I'm always a fan of audit your assumptions. What attachment, what relationship, what assumptions, what behavior didn't lead me to where I thought it was going to lead me. And the faster that you metabolize that feedback, the shorter that stagnation cycle is going to be. And the reason why we keep looping some of these things is because we sometimes do the very definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing and expecting different results. Whereas if you could just take the feedback, metabolize it, and say, let me do something else with it, then failure can actually be an evolutionary technology. And evolution doesn't reward perfection, it rewards adaptation, right?
How about that? You need to say that again.
Evolution does not reward perfection, it rewards adaptation.
And in that case, failure is the very thing that is necessary in this whole context. That failure is that which signals me to adapt.
Right.
So there's this challenge that the side that doesn't have control has. It's like, oh my God, this is all about me. So could you put us in the space where you yourself experienced something that the ego side of you said, oh my God, such failure, right? And how did you coalesce the two aspects of being that coexist where you are to deal with failure and treat it as the next trigger for evolution?
I mean, I could use yesterday as a perfect example. I lived in Miami for 16 years, most of it in my 20s. And arguably, in my 20s was when my skin was the most supple, when I was the cutest, honey, when I had this little did not go to Miami Carnival at any time in my 20s, right? Because I had it like, oh, I have to lose weight, and that's too revealing. Oh my gosh, it's a very self-conscious, frame of mind, right? Here I am about to enter my 50s, and I no longer live in Miami. I actually came down here to come to Miami Carnival, thankfully, with a group of friends. So it was very emotionally supportive and everything else. But I looked like a doll. And it was so confrontive, Sorrel, because I was like, what is a grown, do you realize that you have grandchildren? Why are you wearing this stuff? What do you have to prove? Don't me from actually doing this, right? And so for me, the failure was I didn't take advantage of my 20s. I'm over here trying to catch up to living a youth that I didn't live because I've been a mother for most of my adult life. The what is it called? The paradoxes that I have about or that I used to have because child after yesterday I no longer have them about what it means to be decent and digestible and still be a woman in full enjoyment and pleasure of my body without being lascivious about it, right? And so the failure for me in that regard was, why are you doing this now instead of when it would have been appropriate to do it? This is appropriate. You're 49 years old, Monikah. What are you doing wearing this getup, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of adjust my nervous system and my intuition, my operating code, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like the
It's not.
operating system.
Yeah, like auditing my assumptions. If you're constantly putting yourself in situations where you all constantly have to audit your assumptions, where you're constantly going to have to confront the next version of you that has not yet been born, that you're in the process of birthing. And if you've ever been in a birthing room, you know it's messy, you know it's chaotic. And if you can allow yourself that mess and that chaos, then what comes out on the other side, the evolutionary side of you, the adaptation side of you, it's far more brilliant and elegant and beautiful and graceful than you could have ever given yourself credit for until you went through that experience.
Yeah. And, the sacred side of failure is that first part of this conversation that I think we're digging into. Now, if you were to look and say, what are we then being prepared for?
Mm-hmm.
What does failure prepare us for?
Well, let me take that back and create some context, right? Because if you can
Yeah.
reframe it as a ritual, then you can debrief every failure as a scientist and not a sinner, right?
Hmm.
And so if you can debrief it that way, then the first part is observation, like what factually happened, right? What factually happened there? And then go into interpretation. Sometimes we think that our interpretation of things is the facts of things, right? And they're not. So what factually happened? And then what meaning did I assign to the things that factually happened? So that
So
then out
now
of mhm,
back a little bit to being cute, being like a doll, and questioning your very appropriateness, right?
yeah,
Uh, what factually happened is that you were wearing what you were wearing, right?
yeah,
So then, in the context of what factually happens, if there is any failure ever, the failure resides in how I interpret what actually happens. Is that what you're saying?
yeah. So so let me take you through these four steps, and then I'll tell you how I apply that to the
Okay.
Miami Carnival, right? So the first one is observation, like what factually happened. The next one is interpretation, like what meaning did I assign? Yeah. The third one is integration. And the question that emerges there is what principle, what boundary, what lesson has emerged from all of this, from the facts and the meaning, right? That's the integration part. And then the fourth part is in implementation, like the action. What gets redesigned, what gets retired, what gets resurrected as a result, as an implementation of this boundary or principle or lesson that has emerged, that has integrated, right? And so for me, with the Miami Carnival, what happened factually was my sister asked me to come with her to Miami Carnival, and I said yes. And I paid my money to buy a costume, and I made travel arrangements so I could be here this weekend. And we went down there, and we got our makeup done and our hair done, and wore the costume and went down to Carnival. And it's like an all day extravaganza on Sunday.
That's what happened.
Um, that's what happened. The meaning that I assigned to it was, yeah, but you're 49 years old. This is a young woman's game. You don't have the same body anymore. Have you seen the stretch marks? Have you seen the boobies? Have you seen the, what are you doing? Right? So the interpretation was, you're too old for this. It's too late for you. Um, you're gonna have to like I listen. I put myself on a 6 week challenge. I need to drop the last 20 pounds that were annoying me, right? Just so that I can like be at peace with myself and the body that I'm in. And so that was another meaning. That it's like you're too fat for this. You got to lose some weight in order to be presentable, right? That was another meaning. You have to be presentable in order for this to be okay. Like, you could just show up as you are, right? And so the principle that emerged for me is self acceptance. The boundary that emerged for me is I get to decide how I get to show up at all times. And not from a position of deficiency, like something is missing in me, so let me just go do something so I can show up in excellence. But what does it look like for me to be in excellence right now without me doing a thing about it, just as I am, right? And and then how can I, even in my being self-conscious, even in my thinking, I've never worn this before, I probably never will again. I don't even know why I kept the costume. Where else am I going to wear it? Um, But how can I be in excellence even as I am? How does that show up? And being present. And even though in my mind I was still having some self conscious thoughts, how can I show up fully present for the person that asked me for support, which was my sister? How can I be there for her? How can I be there for these other? Oh, by the way, there were other 20 something year old models around in the group that we were in. Some people were younger than my youngest child. Oh, like, then for me, what gets redesigned for me is the definition of what it means to be beautiful in my own skin has gotten redesigned. I have reconstituted that definition as of the last 24 hours. What has gotten retired has been this assumption that I don't have what it takes to do anything that I have said yes to. If you've said yes, you're equipped. and and then you just get to orchestrate the how. Like, that's up to you. That's what authoring is all about. That's what self-authoring is about. And what has gotten resurrected is everybody that knows me, including you, Sorrel, knows that I'm very fiery, I'm very passionate, and all of that. And then what gets resurrected is there are places in my life where I've put a cap on that, and now that cap is off, including how it looks like in my body to be resurrected in that way, including what it means to be passionate and joyful in an embodied way, in a sensual way, in a pretty way, not just when it's polite and conservative and cute in the words and intelligent. Like, you can be, as a woman, you can be completely brilliant and also saucy. They don't cancel each other out. They're not mutually exclusive. And I got to resurrect that yesterday.
Oh, that is just phenomenal. So failure isn't really what we think it is. Failure isn't really what we think it is. We actually fail. If I'm hearing you correctly, every failure of mine is harbored inside of my interpretation of what happened.
Yeah.
And the longer the failure lasts, the more I can be with my own unwillingness to actually mine it for what it's worth.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Good morning, Giovanni, and welcome.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah. So, Dr. O, this is way too juicy for us to keep this conversation to ourselves. I wonder who wants to chime in. And while they're doing so, the question I had and wanted to ask is this. Now, you painted a whole picture anchored in your appearance at Miami Carnival. Now, Miami Carnival is just one thing that happened in life. And I think the structure that you've created and shared with us is applicable in any area of life, in business, as a human being who may be dealing with an ailment. It applies there. So I'm encouraging each and every one of you to put that kind of hat on, that the structure and the construct and the context that Dr. O is creating is for life. So Chase, go ahead. Let's hear from you.
Grand Rising, everyone. As always, Dr. Ogando, wow. She opens it up wide. Every time you talk, I'm like, oh my gosh, another gold mine. So I want to definitely commend you. I say that to you all the time. It's nothing new, but wow. And you know what? As I was listening to you, I was thinking about how a lot of people do specifically make meaning to something that is just the facts, right? This is the facts of what I'm doing. And then they give it a whole nother fanfare of stuff that really doesn't need to be there. And I just wanted to commend you for always, us fiery people, we know about this language, right? We just jump, hey, I'll do it. Hey, I'll go. Yeah, give it to me, so on and so forth. And I think it's just amazing the way you broke it down into those quadrants, because it's really so much more digestible that way as you broke it down, and people can understand better that, you are making this meaning, you are doing this because, and when you said there were some people there that were younger than my children. I was like, okay. And I honestly, just to be really frank, I don't like when people take things that are age related and say, well, what am I doing here? You're doing that. You're there because that's your energy. You're there because that's what you're feeling. So just
Yeah.
be there. Do it. Do what you're going
Yes.
to do.
Yes. Yes.
And that's, I just love that. I think it's great. If anything, I pay more attention still to this day to children and young people because they don't have the blockage yet and they're flying with their wings spread fully.
Right. Yeah.
And I love that. So I just wanted to commend you, and it's
Thank
great to
you.
see you. Great to see you.
Thank you. Check your WhatsApp.
Oh, bye.
Thank you, Chase. Thank you, Chase. Anyone else? Go ahead, Stacy.
Hey, happy Monday. Good to see you, Dr. Monikah. It's been a while.
Thank you. Good to see you, Stacey.
I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
As you were talking about this, how you were feeling, looking at your age, then and now, and this adventure that you're on, I just kept saying to myself, I don't know if I would feel that way. You know, now one, I probably wouldn't be out there with very little clothes on, right? I don't know, I'm not there yet. I'm working on that too, right? I probably want to be out there like that, but it would be I think, and that's a great goal, right? I feel like though there's so much protection I would have just because I'm a man. Like I don't ask myself those same types of questions or challenge myself in those same ways. Am I too old to be out here doing this? I don't know if, and I don't know if that is, I'm thinking about what you're saying and I'm wondering, is that because of like maybe men don't have to think like that? Or is that just a personal thing where, I don't know if I would feel that way. And it was interesting as you were talking about that. I was constantly thinking about that. I felt like that was a lot of pressure to put on yourself, right? To look at this, and obviously it didn't stop you. It's a wonderful thing. Glad you went down there and handled that and lived the life that you wanted to live. But I wonder if do we just have more freedom as men to do that? To just
Yeah,
be
in
more
some regards.
adventurous?
In
All
some
right.
regards, yes. I think everybody has a particular brand of where they cap themselves, and that's informed by social mores around our gender, around our generation, around our race, etc. Um, my former husband still is. He's still alive, thank God. He's a 6'4", 6'5" Black man, very imposing. Whenever he goes anywhere that he's well dressed, people assume he's like a former athlete, and only former because he has enough grays to be like, okay, you're not active in the field, right? But he's very imposing, and he has a very deep guttural voice. If he were to raise his voice in public, he would be considered a threat. And so he's very mindful of, I am a big, strong Black man in a society that thinks my very physical presence is a threat. Never mind my thoughts, never mind my emotions, never mind how I grew up, never mind my upbringing, never mind my mom and dad. Nothing that humanizes me goes into somebody's instinctual thinking that I'm a threat, right? And so for him, the way he caps himself is very different than how I cap myself. I can raise my voice in public. I can be joyful in public, and it won't be considered a threat. I can scream at the TV when my team wins and not be considered, disruptive, right? He doesn't have that privilege. And in the same way, he can wear shorts in public because he's worked out for most of his life, and he doesn't think anything of it. He's not like, I'm not thinking that anybody's looking at me crazy because, oh, what are you doing with the love handles? I don't have love handles. But I did. So I needed to work on something different. So, yeah, I can't do that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, all
Thank
that
you
is
for
very
that
interesting.
angle,
Thank you.
Stacy.
I'm
Thank you
sorry,
for
say
that
again?
angle. We'll bring Rashida in. Rashida.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ogando. I love the way you tell the story. And I was trying to relate and follow the story, but with me in the costume.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the and why I say that is because when you go to Trinidad Carnival or you go to Barbados Carnival, there is no age group.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's a beautiful thing to see that these 70-year-old, 65-year-old lady them in costume and they is happy.
Yes,
My question to you, was you happy? Was you enjoying the moment?
I was. Yes, and I don't want to get lost in the sauce of the details of the story. I thank you for bringing the idea of putting yourself in it so that you can see how it can apply, because it wasn't about the age. It was about the story that I made up about what was appropriate or not. It was about the story that I made up about the things that I would say for myself that would stop me from going to something. And the deliberate attempt or the deliberate commitment, because it wasn't an attempt, I did it, the deliberate commitment to push past that conversation, right? That in order for me to be a quote unquote good sister and to support my sister in going to carnival, I had to get over my own conversations about what it meant to show up this way with her, because it wasn't enough for me to be like, I'll be over there in the benches looking at you pass through in the parade. No, no, no. She wanted me to be in the parade with her, with the get up and the whole nine. And so what I want us to walk away with in this conversation isn't about whether you would do Miami Carnival or not. That's reductive. I want you to think about what is the thing that you keep saying no to, even though if you were to confront that limiting conversation, you would have to push past what you think would be a failure, what you think would be inappropriate, what you think would be the I can't or it's too late for me or whatever those conversations are, so that you can confront that failure and have it be a ritual for your next evolution and not a stopgap.
Okay, that's what I took away from this conversation.
Yeah.
And I commend you. And why is because you left me with this conversation with a hope in mind. Hope
Yeah.
in mind in a way that I am not going to put no barrier to what I want to achieve in my life. So thank you so much. And don't forget you can use the costume for Halloween. Thank you.
Love it.
Come on, Joelle. Go off mute.
Hello. I love that because I'm actually looking for a costume myself. But thank you. I love this conversation because, for example, with me, Dr. Ogando, I just love it. With me as a 45-year-old woman, I've kind of always been a bit have this kind of youthful spirit about myself. And at some points, I started to really, really silence that, kind of tell myself the story, well, you need to grow up. When are you going to grow up? But in my journey of self healing, I realized not only did I notice in my mindfulness, there's a light that comes with that. And it's just me.
Yeah.
But I realized it has its purposes because there's somebody out there who's being silenced about being I would say I'd argue to say childlike, who actually is gifted in speaking to children or in how their relationships with children are because they're childlike or so on. This is where I think this whole auntie culture thing tends to happen when mothers forget themselves and just put their motherhood in the front seat. And now auntie looks like the cooler one because auntie still really truly remembers herself. So I really, really love that. And it's something that I'm still pushing through in healing and really just showing up because it can be very dangerous. I feel like we tend to make a habit of just misconstruing etiquette, right? When we step into rooms, for me, that can be a situation when I step into a room. If I feel like everyone's more kind of like this way, I should be that way, and I tend to confuse it with etiquette and what that's supposed to mean. So that's something that I'm still pushing through, because I've been in rooms where everyone in there was a negative, or everyone in there was not confident in their image, and then now, because it's the majority, I'm telling myself, oh, I shouldn't be that way. So that's really, really good. And to the gentleman who spoke uh earlier, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but yes, he I wanted to share something. So I went to this puppy yoga event with my sister, which was real fun. They had we saw that they had themes for like couples, but also just with regular people. But you do yoga, and these little puppies run all around, different puppies depending on the week you go. And I remember, so my son heard about it and he was very excited. But in looking at all the pictures on Instagram and so on to promote the place, he kind of stepped back, because he thought it was just like a girl thing, and then like girls, if you have if you bring your boyfriend, and that tends to happen a lot, I feel, in our culture, because of what we're still behind on in really, I feel, encouraging men and being more emotional and really face their emotions. Because I mean, I've got, like, my best friend is a man, and he's been in, like, in my perfumes. He wants my lotion. I've been talking to my son and even my cousin about skincare, and I realized, like, with skincare and hair care, there's not a bigger conversation with that for guys, but they have to deal with the skincare and the hair care too. So there's so much that becomes culturally acceptable for women, that I think just kind of even conditions men to feel like, oh, okay, well, I don't really have these issues or that issues. But what I would venture to say is, think about something you may want to do for fun, or you thought or think about anything that you think you may have wanted to try or attempt, but it's more for girls, or you tell yourself it's more for women. That can be an indication of you just kind of like telling yourself a story because of what you're accustomed to seeing, because that happens all the time. And I try to fight that too out here for my brothers. But thank you so much for this
Thank you.
conversation.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much for your contribution, Joelle. We'll take one last one, Dr. O. Maria, go ahead.
Thank you. Greetings. So, Dr. Monikah, thank you so much for this conversation, and thank you, Sorella and Yo Geo. It really gets me present to my home in New Orleans and Mardi Gras, and how every year it's a costume, and it's so much fun, and I get to, and so does everyone else, figure out what's my fantasy and live it out. So what I'm really present to is, I really wish Mardi Gras Day was every day, and everyone would dress up in costume, and everyone would choose a fantasy and live it out to its fullest. And so, what I'm taking away from today's conversation also regarding failure is that, wow, it's really an empowering context, Sorel, when you say failure is a redirection. And it signals me to adapt when you said that, Dr. Monikah. So I'm taking on that it's actually a trigger for evolution. And so you have left me in the presence of being joyfully delicious. So I want to say thank you for that. And the universe really thanks you for that.
I love it. Thank you, Maria. And the good news is, soon. It may not be an empowering costume, and it may not be an empowering fantasy, but we're all living inside of a fantasy, and the good news is that we get to choose the one we live out.
Yes, thank you.
Cool. Gio.
Yeah. So thank you. So I didn't get to hear this story. And I got that this story was
It was juicy. You missed it.
yeah, it creates a context for the opportunity of failure and self-expression, I think. And what I'm taking away from this conversation that I really enjoy, that I really like, is that in the context of failure, um, that against failure, there is a commitment to accomplish something.
Mhm.
And what I'm hearing is that that commitment to accomplish something, it's an experience. It's an experience that I am unwilling to have because some story I made up or something that happened in my past.
Mhm.
I'm unwilling to risk myself to have that experience again.
Right.
And so what I'm taking away from this conversation is that there's an opportunity to relate to failure as an exciting experience to have,
Mhm.
not something to accomplish, but as an exciting experience to have on my way in my expression of life. That's what I am taking away. And I kind of like it. I really like this.
Uh,
Yeah.
you know,
Thank you, guys.
Gio, stay here, Dr. Monikah, to not to conclude, but really to maybe open another chapter. What I'm taking away is that what's happening is that I am living. And as someone who's living, things happen. And when things happen, I either get outcomes or results in my life as a function of maybe what I want to accomplish for myself, what I want to accomplish for my life, that either, like what happens in reality either matches what I want or not. And when it doesn't, call it a failure. And what I'm getting, this continual redirection that failure allows me to have is housed inside what you said. I'm now 64. I can no longer fit in my 3-year-old clothes.
Right.
Thank God for that, right?
Yes.
And
Even
so
though I
as
know you were adorable in those Oshkosh bagage, I know it.
and so failure can live for me and for all of us this way, that it is a gift that comes through my interpretations that I have outgrown. Who I am that's emerging, evolving, has outgrown today's context for my life. And
Yeah.
man, I love that. It's like I'm on this forever journey called my life.
That's right.
And failure is my friend.
Yes.
Yeah. So
failure is your portal.
Yeah. So what do you want to say to conclude today?
What I want to say is, just kind of reiterating the earlier point about the energy reframe. I want to leave us with this, that the greater the collapse, the greater the capacity for innovation. If you don't waste that contraction in shame, because shame delays evolution, but curiosity accelerates it. So when you have a quote unquote failure, you have the opportunity to compress that potential energy, that tension that precedes expansion. You can actually breathe into that, right? Breathe into what's wanted here, or what's informing me now that I wasn't privy to before, and rest in that, or at least be curious about that discomfort, that pain maybe, so that when you can see that collapse, then I want you to see the collapse. The other side of that coin is the capacity. So the greater the collapse, the greater the capacity. They are not only mutually inclusive, but they are necessary for one another.
Wow. The greater the collapse, the greater the capacity I already have and can develop and expand inside of the collapse. And inside of the collapse, that is really
contraction and thing.
Yeah, awesome. So we have 8 opportunities to distinguish failure and to create this context for our lives. The first one is love. Our 8 tenets are housed inside of that context. Love always, and fail in love. Laugh out loud. And, I'm fond of saying, I think you said that, Monikah, if you can laugh at it next year or next week, why not laugh at it today? So laugh out loud, not at yourself, not at anyone, but laugh. Laughter is healing. Eat mostly plant-based. Gio loves to say, hug the trees. I know, Coach Rashida, you're hugging a tree up in the Poconos. Eat well, eat mostly plant-based, stress less, give, move your body, sleep and rest. And the last one, Dr. Ogando, is yours. Say it for us.
Always audit your assumptions. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. This is our episode for today, the 13th of October. The Leadership Huddle exists to offer and provide unique leadership principles and openings for everyday leaders who are dealing with everyday challenges. That's you, that's me. Welcome to the Leadership Huddle. We'll see you here again next Monday. Until then.
Everybody.